bad things happen. Yes, bad things happen, and they even happen to good people. In this video, I'm going to explore 3 reasons why Christians think bad things happen to good people, and why the fact that bad things happened to a good God changes everything. So let's jump right into it. There are 3 common ways Christians explain why bad things happen to good people. And the first, and maybe most obvious, is, of course, Satan. In the Bible, Satan's the personification of evil. In fact, in 1 Peter, it says that he prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour, and that throughout the world, people are undergoing the same kinds of sufferings at his hands. If God is completely good, as historic Christianity believes, then Satan is completely bad and unconditionally focused on bringing pain and suffering to others. This is maybe most effectively illustrated in the Old Testament book of Job, when Satan brings an onslaught of bad things upon an upright and God-fearing man, Job. The second reason why Christians believe bad things happen to good people is that all of the bad that we experience in our life pales in comparison to the greater good that awaits us in eternity. The Apostle Paul wrote that our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. If your life is like one strand of a woven blanket, from the back, it looks like nothing but random strands. But if you turn the blanket over, you will see a beautiful piece of art. So Christians believe that God is working in every person, at every time, to create an eternal masterpiece that we simply can't see from this side of eternity. The third reason why Christians believe bad things happen to good people is because we have free will. God shows no partiality and causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. God has given humans real freedom in the world, and the fact that we are so innately drawn to actions that hurt others and ourselves means that the bad things are an inevitable part of the world. Like ripples on still water, one bad action cascades into the lives of others, ultimately creating a tidal wave of pain and suffering in the world. In James, this cycle of temptation and sin ultimately leads to death, which is the ultimate human experience of separation and loss. And of course, this isn't an exhaustive list. So go to the comments right now and tell me what other explanations have been helpful for you in the past so that you can share it with others and it can help them too. Christians have never believed that there's one single answer that explains the depth of suffering and evil in the world. Explanations like these are just signposts directing us to a deeper faith. And this is exactly why Christians have generally spent less time trying to explain why bad things happen and more time crying out to God in the midst of our distress. Lament is the ancient biblical word which means to cry out with grief and pain. You might be surprised how much of the Bible is filled with laments. Men and women separated by thousands of years, different times and cultures, all speaking with one voice to God, saying, "Why have you forgotten me? Why must I go about mourning, oppressed by the enemy?" If you want to know why bad things happen to good people, there's a better than average chance you're asking because something bad has happened to you, to your friend, or even to your loved one. And if you're suffering today, then there's no single explanation that's good enough to take your pain away. You can't solve a broken heart with a full head. The spiritual balm for the wounded soul is lament. And lament is as easy as talking honestly with God, telling God the truth, telling him about your frustration and your pain, telling him about your doubt and your anger. You won't hurt God. A modern Christian theologian once wrote, "I fear that much of the Christianity that surrounds us assumes our task is to save appearances by protecting God from Job-like anguish. But if God is the God of Jesus Christ, then God does not need our protection. What God demands is not protection, but truth." Sometimes Christians try to answer the question why bad things happen to good people, and we forget that the very center of our faith is that the man Jesus was perfectly good and yet suffered the ultimate weight of sin and death. There's no more perfect example of a good person overcome by bad things. If you want to know why bad things happen to good people, then don't forget that Jesus asked the very same question himself. Jesus cried out with his own lament from the cross, saying, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Think on that. Jesus Christ, the Son of God, asked why this bad thing was happening to him, which means that God himself asked the same question that we're trying to answer right now. Jesus' lament doesn't change that bad things happen to good people, but his suffering shows us that he's forever willing to join us in our suffering. So while Christians suffer, just like everyone else, we don't suffer without purpose. Hilary of Arles once wrote, "If you suffer as a Christian, you have nothing to be ashamed of. However awful the trials you suffer may be, learn to glory in them, not to be upset by them." Christ's glory is revealed in the church when it suffers. Let's go back to the 3 reasons why bad things happen to good people. At the center of all of our human explanations is Jesus Christ himself. When Jesus suffered, God suffered. When Jesus died, God died, so that ultimately no one would ever suffer or die alone again. Obviously, I can't fully answer the question why bad things happen to good people, and don't ever believe anyone who says that they can. When bad things happen, when people you love suffer, explanations won't take away the pain. A full head does not heal the broken heart, but the suffering Savior does. Because there's no pain where God is not willing to go. So if you are hurting, don't be ashamed to cry out to God in your own lament. No one is left alone when bad things happen in life. That is ultimately the heart of the Christian gospel. And though it doesn't explain why suffering happens, it does give us the strength and courage to persevere when it does. Thank you for spending time with me today here on Deeper Things. My name is Michael Gawecki, and on this channel, I explore how the seemingly simple questions of our everyday faith can lead us to a life of deep and abiding faith. If this video helped you understand why bad things happen to good people, or if it inspired you to trust God in the midst of difficult times, would you give it a like? Share it with a friend who's going through a hard time, or go to the comments and let me know what further questions it raises for you. But either way, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you never miss the newest video that comes out every Thursday. Next week, you won't want to miss why historic Christians believed that preparing to die well was the only way to truly live well. Until then, thanks for being part of this Deeper Things community as we take one step deeper in faith every day.